Once again, this is the Way to a Wonderful Life, and our Way to a Wonderful Life message for today is titled, Get It Right in Your Mind. Get it right in your mind. So each and every one of us can understand and know and realize that as we think about what it is that's going on in our life, what it is that's going on that concerns us, what holds our thoughts, so many times things just stay in our mind and we can't seem to get out of them. So we know, or get them out of our mind, I should say. So we know that we have to realize at some point in time that all these things that seem so important sometimes are really just things that we should just relax and give these things to God. Now, in our message today, I want to give much credit to the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, because I'm including quite a bit of his wisdom in this message today. And I know that the most important thing we will ever realize about ourselves, and this is what Dr. Peale taught, and this is what all the great teachers have taught us, is that we have something great within us. We have the DNA of the divine within us. We have intelligence, we have spirit, we have power. God did not put us on planet Earth and leave us helpless and hopeless, but gave us a part of itself so that we can choose those things that bring us a great love of life. Because when we love life, we automatically love God and all the good that God has given us to enjoy. And this is the truth for each and every one of us. Everyone is seeking to realize a greater joy, a greater peace, a greater happiness, a greater love. We all want to have a job that makes us feel like we're getting somewhere and have a measure of success in our mind in what we do. We all want relationships that bring us a sense of companionship and friendship that makes us feel at ease. And we all want to be healthy. We want to be healthy. We also want to have the money. We want to have the financial wherewithal to do the things that we want to do. So as we go through this message today, let us pay special attention to what we are thinking about what we are hearing. Do we have ears to hear, eyes to see, as the mastermind Jesus asked? There is more to life than what we can see, hear, feel, taste, and touch, because life is infinite, and the possibilities for us are infinite as well. So the first thing we want to do is learn to meet ourselves. Meet yourself, Dr. Peale tells us. Life begins today for the person who meets himself. At whatever age this great event occurs, life deep and full wells up, and from that time on, it can truly be said one lives. Strangely enough, multitudes of men and women are born, spend their days, and die never having fully known who they are. They come and go on the human scene, the possessors of unrealized powers, which never quite find the expression of what they want to realize. As such, the great Dr. Holmes pathetically declared they died with all their music in them. Human waste of such magnitude is little short of tragic and constitutes an offense against creation. Our problem is to become acquainted with our own selves, letting our personalities loose upon the world for the sheer adventure of their full development, and in the positive hope that they may, in their own way, lift the level of humanity. Now, long, long ago, Socrates wrote over the Greek temple, "Know thyself," for he realized that achievement in any field and in the art of living itself is dependent upon an accurate knowledge of oneself. The average person needs this injunction of the father of philosophy, the great Socrates, for most of us have no adequate conception of our powers and ability. At heart, we underestimate ourselves. We do not really believe in ourselves and remain for that reason weak, ineffectual, even impotent, when we could be strong and dominant and victorious. An old cobbler in Edinburgh, with that mature wisdom not infrequently found in the simple, honorable trades, was in the habit of beginning each day with the prayer, "O Lord, give me a high opinion of myself. O Lord, give me a high opinion of myself." To be sure, there are some people who seem to possess this lofty personal respect without necessity for recourse to the expedient of prayer, but it yet remains that the mass of people do not have a high opinion of themselves, and the reason is they do not know themselves. And so often we've been coached and conditioned to be humble, to think that if we say something good about ourselves, or if we feel really great about ourselves and speak good about ourselves, that somehow we lack humility, and in lacking humility, we somehow appear to be wrong to the world. But we must believe in ourselves. God gave us this life, gifted us with this life. God gave us power and intelligence and a spirit so that we can realize a great joy, a great success, and whatever it is that we choose. But we are the ones that must choose. We are the ones that must stir up that spirit within us. So let's continue on with some words of the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale and talk about dynamic self-realization. He tells us the greatest day in any individual's life is when they begin for the first time to realize who they are. For some, this fortunately happens early in life, and it bestows upon them a decided advantage. For others, it happens late. But when it does, the monotony of the unresponsive years is made to shine in the reflected glory of the late afternoon sunburst. Whether it be early or late, any of us may well seek unremittingly the exciting experience of personal realization. So we must think about what it is in our past that holds us back, what it is in our past that appears to hinder us. In the scripture we can read, He will return to us the years the locusts have eaten. He will return to us the years the locusts have eaten. In other words, if we keep our mind stayed on God and we learn to stir up that spirit within us, and we learn to realize that life is a gift, and we proceed in life acting as if life is a gift, and we continue to find that life is a gift in our mind, even if all the things around us appear to deny it, then we shall find ourselves living a wonderful life, a good life, a joyful life, and most likely an abundant life. Dr. Peale says it happened to a college student friend of mine once with dramatic suddenness. Genial, easygoing, he was as unsuccessful in his studies as he was efficient upon the athletic field. His popularity with the cheering section was not fully shared by the faculty, and the curtain was slowly but surely falling upon his academic career. Its final drop, for some not too obscure reason, awaited only the conclusion of the football season. Destiny, however, has its own strange ways. One day in a class of psychology, our student friend suddenly became enthralled as the professor described how the average man fails because he does not learn to control and consolidate his powers. He used the familiar illustration of the burning glass. The rays of the sun falling upon a piece of paper have little effect. Let them, however, be drawn by the burning glass to a focus, and they create an intense heat which will quickly burn a hole in the paper. The professor pointed out that the man who succeeds is the one who can draw his dissipated and therefore futile powers to a focus. Our student friend said that in a flashing illumination, he saw the cause of his own failure, and oblivious of all in the room and under the spell of a veritable new birth, leaped to his feet crying, "I see it, I see it." Whereupon, amidst litters of amusement, he sank back embarrassed but wonderingly happy into his seat. What had happened? He had met himself, a new self, his real self, which never before had received its day in the sun, and the revelation changed him from a failure to a potential success, the possibilities of which were later abundantly realized. That's from Dr. Norman Vincent Peale's essay, The New Art of Living. So we realize that the most important thing we will ever know about ourselves is that there's something within us, and it's a great something within us. We have the DNA of the divine within us. We have intelligence, we have spirit, we have power. And let's all remember today, and let's realize this is the truth for us right now, right where we are. God did not put us on planet Earth and leave us helpless and hopeless, but gave us a part of itself so that we can choose those things that bring us a great love for life. We're here to love this thing called life. Life is God. When Jesus said, keep your mind stayed on God and stayed on the good, and all good things will be added unto you, he was telling us, in essence, keep your mind stayed on life as good, and realize and believe in the good, and the good will follow. The good will follow. The good will come to you. So what Dr. Peele was teaching was not unique to him. This call to realize a greater sense of ourselves is woven throughout many of the spiritual teachings of the 18th and 19th century, even before that. It is absolutely imperative that we see ourselves as capable, see ourselves as worthy, see ourselves as having the confidence to do the things we choose to do. There is so much talk these days about knowing the right people, or knowing the million or the trillion secrets of success, and that we must follow this guru or that guru, or buy this book, or buy that book to find the realities of life. But we can find all that we need to know in those few words in the scriptures that tell us that God so loved us, that God has an everlasting love for us. And in this love, just as the mastermind Jesus said, it is the Father's good pleasure to give to us. So what do we want to get? In order for God to give us something, we have to know what it is. We have to expect it. We have to realize for ourselves, what it is that do I need today to feel a greater love for my life? Do I need to be healthier? Do I need to feel a sense of success in a greater way? Do I need to pull myself out of low self-esteem into a higher self-esteem? What is it that I need to self-realize about myself today, so that we don't continue seeking something outside of ourselves to validate our feelings of self-worth? Because if we keep looking outside of ourselves, this can become an endless struggle, lasting a lifetime even. You know, I know people that go to psychologists, and they've been going to psychologists year after year after year, and they keep looking for someone else to make them feel confident, and it just won't happen. Let's go back to those words of the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. He tells us the greatest day in any individual's life is when they begin for the first time to realize who they are. For some, this fortunately happens early in life, and it bestows upon them a decided advantage. For others, it happens late. But when it does, the monotony of the unresponsive years is made to shine in the reflected glory of the late afternoon sunburst. Whether it be early or late, any of us may well seek unremittingly the exciting experience of personal realization. He writes that it happened to a college student friend of his, once with dramatic suddenness. Genial, easygoing, this student friend was as unsuccessful in his studies as he was efficient upon the athletic field. His popularity with the cheering section was not fully shared by the faculty, and the curtain was slowly but surely falling upon his academic career. Its final drop, for some not too obscure reason, awaited only the conclusion of the football season. Isn't that pretty much true in a lot of places? So destiny, however, Dr. Peale writes, has its own strange ways. One day in a class in psychology, our student friend suddenly became enthralled as the professor described how the average man fails because he does not learn to control and consolidate his powers. He used the familiar illustration of the burning glass. The rays of the sun falling upon a piece of paper have little effect, but let them, however, be drawn by the burning glass to a focus, and they create an intense heat which will quickly burn a hole in the paper. The professor pointed out that the man who succeeds is the one who can draw his dissipated and therefore futile efforts and powers to a focus. Our student said that in a flashing illumination in his mind, he saw the cause of his own failure, and obliviously of all in the room, and under the spell of a veritable new birth, leaped to his feet, crying, "I see it, I see it." Whereupon, amidst litters of amusement, he sank back embarrassed but wonderingly happy into his seat. What had happened? He had met himself, a new self, his real self, which never before had received its day in the sun, and the revelation changed him from a failure to a potential success, the possibilities of which were later abundantly realized. Now, that's from the great Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, from his book or essay, The New Art of Living. So there we have it. What Dr. Peale was teaching is not unique to him. This same call to realize a greater sense of ourself is woven through the teachings of the Mastermind Jesus, through the sages and the prophets' words in the Old Testament and the Torah, all the way back 1,500 years before Jesus and the Bhagavad Gita. It is absolutely imperative that we see ourselves as capable, see ourselves as worthy, and see ourselves as having the confidence to do the things we choose to do. Now, there is so much talk going on about following this guru or following this line of thought or this method. We're not here to copy anyone else. We're not here to do things the same way someone else did. As the great Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, imitation is suicide. In other words, we lose ourselves. We lose ourselves by trying to be like someone else or trying to gain our success and our happiness in someone else's way, because it won't be unique to us. And we must realize our uniqueness. God did not Xerox. We're here. We're here to be an expression of God. We're here to be a unique expression of the life, the power, the spirit, and the intelligence of the divine. God clothed our spirit in human form so that we can realize the good life, the joyful life, right here on planet Earth. Just as Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, But if we continue to seek something outside of ourselves to validate our sense of self-worth, then this can become an endless struggle. It could even last a lifetime. We must be willing to look at ourselves objectively, and we must be willing to let go of any sense of negativity and not honestly take stock of who we are. Too many people will tell us that somebody else who knows more than they do. People flock to churches every week trying to find that something that somebody else knows that will make their life better, when all they must do is realize that they have within them the same access to the intelligence of God that anyone that has ever lived on this planet. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with going to church and feeling a sense of community, or going to temple, or going to wherever you may go. But we must realize that all the intelligence that's required for us to live the good life, the joyful life, and the abundant life, the healthy life, the lovable life, is right where we are. It's within us. It is within us. We must know that we are one with the infinite spirit. Just as Jesus said, don't you know that you are God's? Don't you know, he said, that you are God's? And of course, the people were probably thinking, what in heaven is he talking about? But we know that intelligence that rules the universe has incarnated within us all the intelligence necessary for us to do the things that we want to do, to access this intelligence of God by keeping our mind stayed on God, stayed on the good. But we must learn to believe in ourselves. We must learn to get it right in our mind that we are enough. We are enough for whatever it is that we choose to do, enough for whatever it is that we choose to become, whatever it is that we choose to take possession of. We are enough to be responsible for it, to have it to enjoy it, and to make it something that's not only a benefit to us, but a benefit to those around us. The great William Shakespeare wrote, "This above all to thine own self be true. This above all to thine own self be true." But we must remember that even before him, Socrates wrote over the Greek temple, the old Greek temple, "Know thyself, know thyself." So we can't be true to thine own self be true if we don't know who we are. So we must realize that any achievement in any field, any way that we live our life, any relationships that we have, are all determined by how we feel about ourselves. What is it? What is it that's going on with us that is attractive to other people? What is it that's going on to us that feels attractive to ourselves? We must look at ourselves and feel good about ourselves, have a good self-esteem about ourselves. That doesn't mean that we lack humility. It just means that we have a greater realization of who we are and what we're about. So as Dr. Peel says, life begins today for the person who meets themselves. At whatever age this great event occurs, life deep and full wells up, and from that time on, it can truly be said one lives. Strangely enough, multitudes of men and women are born, spend their days and die, never having really known themselves. They come and go on the human scene, the possessors of unrealized powers which never quite find expression. As such, Holmes pathetically declared, they died with all their music in them. Human waste of such magnitude is little short of tragic and constitutes an offense against creation. In other words, he's telling us in so many words that it's a denial of God. It's a denial of God's goodness in our life. We must realize that God gave us this life to enjoy it. God gifted us with this life so we could gift something to the planet on which we were born, and realize that things will come to the good for us. Let's go back and let's be reminded of that old cobbler in Edinburgh who had that great mature wisdom not infrequently found in the simple, honorable trades, was in the habit of beginning each day with the prayer, "O Lord, give me a high opinion of myself." To be sure, there are some people who seem to possess this lofty personal respect without necessity for recourse to the expediency of prayer, but most people do require it. You know, one of the great things that I realize for myself every day is I turn to God and I say, "Renew a right spirit within me." That's from the book of Proverbs. Renew a right spirit within me. And what is that right spirit? It's to know that I have things right in my mind, that I can make choices and understand the consequences of my choices, that I can realize greater things for myself by realizing greater things for others, that I can bring into my life experience a joyous understanding of my relationship, not only to life, but to God itself that gave me life. This is what happens when we allow ourselves to believe in ourselves. We start realizing that wonderful things are within our grasp. That's why Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand, because he knew that it's only in our mind that we see sometimes that life is hard. I remember seeing a bumper sticker one time, and it had a great effect on me because I remember those words to this day, and I must have seen that bumper sticker like more than 20 years ago. It read, "Life is hard, then you die." And I thought then, and I still believe now, what a horrible way to live your life. What a horrible way to live your life. Because if you believe that life is hard and then you die, life shall be hard and then you die. Because as the mastermind Jesus said, it is done unto you as you believe. So as you believe that life is hard, You shall have some hard things to contend with. But as you believe that life is good, that God has an everlasting love for you, that it is the Father's good pleasure to give to you, you shall realize, just as Jesus said, the glorious life, the wonderful life, and the abundant life. And so it is. Amen. And so it is.